When you say buyer centricity, how is the world of work viewing sales as a profession, and how does that tie into buyer centricity?
There's so many layers to it because I think the top layer is that sales is not viewed as a profession. It's not respected as a profession, right? Like sales is viewed as just a job you go in. Like that speaks to a bigger problem. It's not something you can go to college for. It's not something parents encourage their children to consider as a career choice, even though there is insane amounts of money to be made in sales. So I think that's one piece of it. I think because sales has historically attracted some pretty big egos. Historically, it's been like a profession that only extroverts can go into. And if you're good at talking, you can be good at sales. And it's all things that we know, both anecdotally and from the data, are just dead wrong. But you say something like, here's a script that I've had success with, or here's a technique that you might want to try. People are like breaking their ankles to run to the comments to be like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work in my sale. I tried it and that didn't work for me. And so I think a huge part of it is that we have become so tied to these historical narratives of everything has to be metrics based, or you have to follow this exact script, or if you don't do this exact template or process, you're doing it wrong. And I think the modern seller needs to take these amazing best practices that have been handed down to us and use those guardrails, use those parameters, but inject their own voice to just make it more authentic and more meaningful. So I think that's one really important way that we can connect with our buyers, right? Because we're creating a sales community that looks more like our buyers and sounds more like our buyers, and we have the freedom to pair our lived experiences with best practices to communicate with our buyers in a way that they want, like in a way that matters to them. But I think to that comment, I know exactly what you're talking about. The guy was like, I think sales is fine. You just need to try harder. And I'm like, no, I don't think you understand. Like I've literally smashed my quota always. I'm not some like victim that's saying sales is so tough and that's why I just am not successful here. Like I'm highly successful and can also acknowledge that there are things about the profession that are deeply broken. And it doesn't really matter what we as sellers think. It does matter, but it doesn't really matter what we think. That if we think sales is great, if you're polling the buyer community and they're ranking us consistently as one of the top 3 most hated professions, like that's a disconnect that needs to be acknowledged. And our buyer's opinion matters